There's a bomb in the cake. Don't worry, I used to be a bomb guy. Stand back!
Palm Springs stars Andy Samberg and Kristen Milotti and tells the story of two people at a wedding who, after flinging and whatnot, having a good time, end up going through a cave that sends them into a time loop. So they repeat the entire day over and over again, and there's seemingly no way out. So the two of them decide, life is kind of meaningless and pointless, so why not just choose to live? And they go through crazy adventures, have a good time, maybe possibly fall in love, just go through all sorts of crazy shenanigans. J.K. Simmons is there trying to kill Andy Samberg. It is a wild ride, and I absolutely loved every second of this movie. After the terrible year that 2020 has been so far, I really needed something like this. Just like, embraces what it is, knows exactly what it is, and just goes to the 11 with it. It is just spectacular in every manner of the word, and I loved it. Now, if you could tell from my description of it, yes, this does follow Groundhog Day in terms of, its time loop scenario. But personally, I haven't seen Groundhog Day, so the only basis I really have to go off the top of my head is the Happy Death Day movies. And when I saw Happy Death Day, I really liked it. I thought that it was fun. Happy Death Day 2 is another story. But the first one, I thought that it was fun. But, it didn't really embrace itself as much as it should have. It did, but it didn't. But here, it fully embraces what it is. And I mean that in the best possible senses, because you can pretty much figure out where the plot's going to go, but the movie knows where it's going to go. So it's just like the movie, we're just going to have a fun time with this, and you're going to have a fun time with this. And despite knowing where it was going to go, it didn't matter to me. And like I said in my review of Stargirl, I knew where that film was going to go, and because of that, and the film didn't really go much of anywhere with what it was presenting to me, so it just kind of felt flat on its face in some parts. But here, it didn't. And I really, really like that. And there's definitely some wild out there moments that I was not expecting. And those were some of my favorite moments. One-liners, physical comedy, just all sorts of manner of crazy stuff happens in this movie. And once it just keeps advancing, it just gets more and more crazy. I loved it. And even when it gets to those slower, more character-building moments of personal drama, of relating to one another, it still really worked. And honestly, it never really killed the pacing of this movie, which is a really big deal. Andy Samberg and Kristen Milotti, they are just perfect. The two of them have amazing chemistry with one another. They are both absolutely hilarious in this movie. If you have seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine, you know how funny Andy Samberg is. He's just fantastic here. I have seen Kristen in The Wolf of Wall Street, but that wasn't really a comedic performance. But she's fantastic in this. Definitely will want to be checking out more of her stuff. But she and Andy had great chemistry. They were both absolutely hilarious with one another. They were easily the best parts of this movie, and just maybe had an amazing time watching it. J.K. Simmons, this man can do no wrong. Despite him only appearing in a few scenes, they are some very entertaining few scenes. And while I wish there was more of him, it's not a detriment that there's not. But personally, I just love seeing J.K. Simmons in anything, and just hear him trying to kill Andy Samberg for dooming him to the same thing that he's doomed to it's funny. And I do wish there was a bit more, but that just kind of would have dragged the film along, and just would have been padding out the runtime for what it doesn't need. And not for being an hour and a half, it feels like the right length. It doesn't feel like that it needs to be any longer, and it doesn't feel like it's too short. It gets in, it does what it needs to do, and then gets out. And that was not a euphemism for anything, but it's late. I'm very tired. So yeah, like I mentioned before, this film definitely does have those moments of where it does stop, slow down, and have those character building moments. And I like it. And it presents interesting ideas that you don't think about. And it's not bad that it doesn't really expand on them, because it doesn't really have to. There's one point when Andy Samberg tries to reflect on his past, what his job was however long ago, when he wasn't stuck in the time loop, and he can't recall. Now granted, that could have been because of the drugs that he was on, but it does make you think about for how long someone can be stuck in this time loop. And after you learn he's tried getting out of it in multiple different ways, tries suicide in multiple different ways, but nothing works, and so eventually he just kind of embraced it, and now he doesn't even know how long he's been in there for. So it brings up those interesting ideas, and I really like that it asks those questions, and I'm fine with it not really taking so much time out of the movie to really explore and reflect on what it means, because it doesn't need to. Some films, they just take too much time reflecting on certain ideas, and it could draw the film away from the whole point of the movie. And by taking on these kinds of ideas and like just taking the time of like, really exploring what they mean. Even when Kristen's character like, tries to figure out a way to like, get out of this loop, it's done in a very fast kind of manner. It doesn't really like, try to make the entire plot about getting out of this, because Happy Death Day, that was the whole thing, was getting out of this. But even that was tied to like, her character growth, and was why it was necessary for it to be the way that it was. But here, if it was the entire thing, it wouldn't have been tied to either of their characters to try to figure out a way out of this. It's only a tiny portion, tiny portion of the movie that even tries to figure out how to get out of this situation. And I'm happy that it doesn't take up much time, because again, it just would pad out the runtime, would have been unnecessary to the story, because this is about embracing life, I guess, in a sense, despite being stuck in a time loop. It's about embracing life, all of its oddities, just like, living in the moment, essentially, because, like, for them, tomorrow is today, and yesterday is also today, so why not just do whatever the hell you want? And, like, it's really charming seeing that, and, like, because most of these movies, it's always just, like, trying to get out of the situation, and, like, all this, but then it's like they find themselves or something. But here, it's just, like, they've already been embracing the situation, so the more reflection on it is like, do they want to actually figure out a way out, or do they want to stay? So it's interesting the spin that it takes on this kind of genre, and I really like what this film did overall. I absolutely love this movie. Casting was perfect. It was absolutely hilarious. I love the story. I love ideas that it presents. Runtime was great. Pacing was fantastic. Just an amazing time. Palm Springs is on Hulu right now. If you haven't seen it, please see it. 2020 has been a terrible year. You just need something to brighten your mood, and this is most definitely going to brighten your mood. I love this movie. It was fantastic. Andy Samberg still can do no wrong. Hot Rod is also amazing. If you haven't seen Hot Rod, see Hot Rod. And yeah, I just love this movie. I'm going to give Palm Springs a 9 out of 10. I was expecting to have a good time with this and have a fun time. I really wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did, but I did. I absolutely love this movie, and I can't wait to see it again. And yeah, for some of you, just like, the fact that, like, goes through this plot and whatnot might, like, not make it like a 9 out of 10 for you, but honestly, it did for me. I love this movie, and yeah, it's good. So that was my review of Palm Springs. Have you seen the movie? What'd you think of it? Let me know down in the comments below. If you've seen other time loop movies like this, like Happy Death Day or Groundhog Day, let me know which one's the best, which one's the worst. I know you tell me. Make sure like, share, subscribe, all that cool stuff, and I will see you all next time.